welcome to the Thru The Grapewine podcast. I am your host, Uta Mitchell, and I have a very special guest here with me today. Her name is Maryam Ahmed, and she's the founder of Maryam Company, and the company's mission is to help, and I'm taking this right from the website, purpose-driven brands grow their businesses, increase engagement, and deepen their impact while celebrating food and wine through diversity, sustainability, and community-based educational initiatives and program. And I love it. Thank you so much for being here, Mariam.
Thank you so much for having me, Uta. I'm excited to talk about all the things.
Yeah, me too. So, you are obviously a very, very busy woman who wears many hats. And I'm very curious how this all started. Was it always going to be the wine industry, or did you transition into the industry? How did it all start for you?
I think it sounds cheesy, but in a lot of ways, like the wine industry chose me. I was really lucky to have a group of people in my life when I was young, a big Italian family that celebrated
Mhm.
everything. And at every celebration, there was wine and, of course, really good food. But I noticed how much wine was linked to celebration and conversation and just
Mhm.
people spending time with one another. And it clicked for me then, although I wasn't even old enough to drink at the time. So I didn't know necessarily then that I would be able to pursue a full-time career in wine, but I knew that I liked the conviviality of wine and the way that it
Mhm.
gathered people together. And
Mhm.
I had kind of grown up a gatherer. I'm an oldest sibling. I
Mhm.
have a number of friends throughout the country. I have traveled, and I'm just the one that kind of people rely on a lot of the time to get everybody together. And
Yeah,
so wine and gathering, I think, was an inevitability. It was just a matter of when would the discovery happen. So I went
right.
to my undergrad at Cornell University. I went to the hotel management program there. And that was where I learned that I could really get into wine. I had grown up about 45 minutes from the Finger Lakes region in New York,
Gotcha.
but I didn't grow up in a wine household. So it took me kind of leaving home and getting to college to realize that there was an industry so close to where I had grown up that was so aligned with what my interests were.
Right.
And so I got a job at a local winery while I was in school, and I honestly just like never looked back.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so funny because the region I grew up in Germany, also very much a wine region. It's the Baden wine region. And it just never occurred to me that at some point I'd be working in the wine industry.
Mhm.
It took me, over 40 years to kind of fall into it. So and like you were saying, cheesy as it may sound, I feel like it found me because I wasn't really actually looking for anything. It was just like one of those
Mhm.
moments where it's like, oh, I think I might try this, and here we are 7 years later.
I think wine is an amazingly powerful tool in that way. Like
Yeah,
so many of us have different stories of our entry points into wine, and
yeah.
also those same stories inform how we move in the wine world and how we spread the
Hmm.
joy of the wine world. So there's not really any wrong path to getting there.
Right. Oh,
There's
sure.
just so many different ways to arrive.
Yeah, yeah, that is very true. So, the reason I know about you is because you spoke last year at the Women in Wine conference in Oregon, and your talk was really, really captivating. It was very inspirational. And you made it very clear from the moment that you started talking that you are fully aware of the fact that there would be some audience members that would get a little bit uncomfortable as you're speaking on behalf of every woman of color and your journey to bring equity and diversity into this industry. And personally, I embrace this discomfort and I appreciate the opportunity to learn and grow because I feel like I'm never done. And I think it's just one of those things. My daughter is gay, and I think it made it made me want to learn more, in a sense, if that makes any sense, because all of a sudden I became aware of, other issues that were, wrong in the
Mhm.
world. And so to me, that was kind of my wake up point, and that's when I started that desire to learn. But what was it like for you for that very first time that you stepped onto a stage to share your message with an audience?
It's very similar to the feeling that I get stepping on stage now. It's always a risk to teach through vulnerability.
Yeah.
There's a lot that comes with letting your shields down in order to be of service to other people, in
Hmm.
order to help people harness their own perspectives more thoroughly, or to call into question maybe some of the things that they'd never thought about before. So that's uncomfortable work. As I had mentioned during that talk, there are so many folks doing uncomfortable work. I couldn't possibly represent everybody and getting up on stage. My experiences and my privilege and who I am, the makeup, right, of Mariam is different from the next person. But the feeling of getting on stage to share how your experience informs your professionalism, your personal life, it's always gives you like a lot of fluttering in the stomach region, because you have a purpose, what you
Hmm.
need to share is important. But you just kind of have to acknowledge that sometimes that level of discomfort means you're really doing something so important, and in line with your own mission that is worth it.
Right. And I think, especially when you then know that somebody, a year later will remember an experience that they had in the audience. I
Mhm.
have to assume that, you are told this by more people than just me, coming up to you and going, "Hey, Miriam, I was there for that talk that you did." And I feel like that must be incredibly rewarding to know that there is that feedback, and that that you're doing the right thing, and so that even if it's uncomfortable, you've got to continue.
Definitely. I think I've always had a fascination with education. I have extended family that's been in education for generations, and I just don't think it's of any surprise to anybody that this is one of the most rewarding forms of work that I do through Maryam and Company.
Hmm.
um, and it is always rewarding, but it's also very valuable to hear from people, because I can understand what resonated or where more information might be needed. And I mean, I
For
take all
sure.
the feedback I possibly can whenever I can. But
Yeah.
yes, it is always a little bit, like, rewarding. And you have to not be too humble, but you have to be, you have to have humility, and there's all of these things. And at the end of the
Yeah.
day, really, I just like thank anybody who comes up and says anything, because it's so helpful to know that it resonated.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. For sure. So, so that your talks, and your writing are powerful is also evident by the fact that you were nominated, one for the Wine Star Award recipient for the social visionary of the year 2022. You were named one of Wine Enthusiast's Future 40 Tastemakers of 2022. You received the Impact Award from Wine and Culture Festival. So that's, obviously a lot of things. What does that mean for you to be one so widely recognized? I mean, it must be an incredible sense of accomplishment that you must be feeling, that your hard work is paying off like this.
Yeah, there's so many questions in one question. So I'll start bigger picture, which is that, some days I vacillate between being an award-winning beverage professional and a home gardener and cat mom. I mean, it just sometimes depends on the level of confidence one wakes up with. And just to be perfectly honest with you, receiving the cover of the 2022 issue of the Future 40 Tastemakers from Wine Enthusiasts was a complete surprise. They
Oh my
did not
gosh.
provide any warning at all. I had no
Oh,
idea,
wow.
and it was such a beautiful surprise. I think for me, seeing that cover, it was very emotional, not only because of being the one on the photo, but also because
Yeah.
that was the first time, I had seen someone Pakistani like on a cover of a wine magazine. Like, it's so cool. And
Ah,
I just like, I imagine hopefully that it will encourage women of from all kinds of backgrounds, but especially thinking about the kind of girl I was, like, to pursue something in wine if they're interested. So that
yeah.
was such a big deal to me. But the other reason I was so excited is because the Future 40 is a re-envision version of the 40 under 40 list that wine enthusiasts used to
Right.
put out. And
Yeah.
I'm so excited that they're doing Future 40 now, because it's removing this age limitation and hopefully breaking down some of the ageism barriers we have in our industry. And I
Yeah.
was so proud to be in the inaugural list of those people. That meant a lot to me
Ah,
too. Folks who were really like elbow to elbow with me doing work and pushing boundaries. So it's an
yeah.
honor in that regard to be recognized among my peers and among every single beverage professional in the nation, right? You're one
Mhm.
of the 40. It's an incredible honor. A week after basically I celebrated the cover of the magazine, I found out that I received the nomination for the Social Visionary Award. So it was like drinking water from a fire hose a little bit, um, for a couple of months there in 2022. And the Impact Award that I received from Wine and Culture Festival very recently, July of 2023, is so special because it's community nominated. So it's the folks
Mhm.
who, follow along, frankly, every day. It's the people who send you a reply to your newsletter, like, yeah, keep going. It's the people who you're
Yeah.
trying to serve, ideally. And that just means so much to me, because that is a piece of feedback. To me, that
Yeah.
means we should keep pushing and that we are doing something that
Right.
is changing the game for some folks in the industry, hopefully continue to ripple out and change the industry at large. But that one is
Yeah.
just so special for those reasons.
Oh my gosh. That gave me goosebumps. So, excuse me. So let's talk about your company. It is called Maryam Company. Can you please explain to our listeners what do you do and who are you doing it for?
Sure. I mean, first I can just say you could name your business anything. Uh,
Right.
so I named mine after me. And
Yeah.
that was actually in and of itself an uncomfortable decision, because I tend to be someone who does a lot of the work that I do, a lot of the impact work is behind the scenes. And it
Mhm.
isn't so much that I need the name recognition for my own ego, but more so that if I had named it something else, I may have very well hidden behind it. And I
Yeah.
think, just as
Uh-huh.
we talked about the cover of the magazine, being in front of a company like this hopefully means other people will be pursuing a career like this one, right? So
Yeah.
I made this decision that I wouldn't typically be comfortable with. So then, of course, I named it and company. And there's a really particular reason why we didn't use the and percent. We used a plus sign. And that was because together as a formula, Mariam and Company is the brand, right? It is how we operate, it is how we serve. And it was a small but important choice, right, in the naming. And so we are a company legally on paper as one. And I tell anybody who asks me the structure of Maryam and Company. But the and company piece, it's an internal thing, right? We have a supply chain of really amazing, diverse, mostly women, providing services
Mhm.
that we are asked for as far as references are concerned. We work with independent contractors as well to help with some of our projects, and those folks are always women at minimum. Always, most of our folks are diverse women that support Maryam and Company. In addition to the people who work with us, like we collaborate with so many other organizations. That's the company we keep. Like all these folks in social impact, the people doing furthering the work, they're the company. And then, of course, the
Yeah.
people who get to interact with us from a public facing standpoint and who we get to interact with from a public facing standpoint, I consider those Anne's company too. And so we're never not in good company, is basically potentially could be my new tagline.
Yeah. I like that.
Anyway, that's only all about the name. So,
Yeah.
what we do at Maryam and Company is basically we will create educational initiatives. Oftentimes, those are industry facing, they can be wine lover facing, they could be employee facing. But while we are simultaneously producing something that looks like a glossy, fun experience to be part of, we are at the same time dismantling systems behind the scenes that are maybe outdated, maybe creating
Mhm.
unnecessary barriers to entry or access, especially for the diverse community, systems that are slowing progress down, systems that
Mhm.
are built on the premise of, well, we've always done it that way, so why would we do it differently? So
Right.
I'm hired to be both creative and strategic on the internal side, and to hold people accountable, especially around their sustainability and diversity goals. And so that looks like creating conference programs, creating panel series and education, um, sessions, as well as taking a look at messaging, taking a look at how the messaging matches the internal culture and initiatives happening within a business,
Yeah.
and trying to connect the dots between a lot of these larger companies that have the resources that many of the diverse um, organizations, anybody like has historically not been resourced, helping bridge the two.
Yeah. 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 Okay, that's wonderful. When did you start the company, and how many people are there now? So in the direct
Yeah.
company.
So I started in 2020, in July of 2020. I had previously been the public programs director at the Culinary Institute of America for nearly 5 years. So I was already very entrenched in creating educational programs, in tracking efficacy of programs, of course,
Mhm.
and also connecting the importance of thought leadership with the importance of the bottom line, etc. And I really loved that work. It was very, very
Yeah.
intriguing. It kept me curious. It kept me excited. And I kind of knew like I could continue to be of service in that way to the food and beverage industry if I continued the work on my own. So I launched Maryam Company in 2020, and like I said, we are a single member LLC, but I have had
Right, right.
incredible operational support, as well as marketing support the whole time. So on any
Yeah.
given day, Maryam and Company is probably about 4 or 5 people big to make the machine work.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah. So I have to get back to this 2020 thing because what I'm noticing is that there are really quite a lot of women that I've been talking to recently who started something in
Mm,
2020. So, Ticket with our Legacy
mm,
Harvested, she started in 2020. I just spoke with Stephanie from Fly Wines. She started in
mm,
2020. Here you are in 2020. So I find that really fascinating how, during this time when so many people were just kind of like, pulling their covers on and kind of
mm.
crawling into their little holes, so many others kind of stepped out of that and went, okay, so what can I do? Was that a pretty specific thing, in 2020 of, I have time on my hands. What am I going to do with that? Or was it going to happen regardless?
Well, I'll answer Miriam and Company first, which is that it was going to happen regardless. I had been laying
Right.
the groundwork. I was passionate about the work that I was doing, but excited to expand on it and to support more brands in these initiatives.
Hmm.
So I think Miriam and Company was an inevitability. I don't know if it would have been 2020, but I like to think it would have, I like to think it happened exactly when it should have. But I think, you're making an interesting observation about 2020, especially when you're speaking about our legacy harvested and some of the other initiatives, right, that were born not from pandemic, but from the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor.
Mhm.
And I think
Yeah.
in either scenario, as far as 2020 being the year, we were faced with an option of, do I have to do this or not? And I think when we talk about especially work around equity, there were plenty of folks already doing work, but there was a huge, huge growth period for equity work beginning in 2020 because we as a nation realized how much was going wrong, right? So I
Mhm.
think there are a few different reasons as to why 2020 is such a big pivotal
Yeah.
year for
Yeah.
people.
Very true. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and I think there is, like you said, we have an option, and I think for many, it's not an option. It's if not now, when am I going to do
Yeah.
something? And so, yeah, totally understandable. So, you also co-founded the Diversity in Wine Leadership Forum, and per your website, this is the mission. I'm really good at reading from websites, have you noticed? So
What does it say?
it says the Diversity in Wine Leadership Forum brings together leaders of organizations with a core commitment to equity and diversity in the wine industry to act as a collaborative resource for support, discussion, and positive change. Such collaboration is done with the recognition that change can only occur over time through intentional ongoing commitment. The forum also acts as a central resource for the wine community and its supporters to connect, support, and work with these organizations. First of all, again, how did you decide to get this foundation started?
So I co-founded the Diversity Wine Leadership Forum in 2020 with Elaine Chukon Brown. And the impetus was that after having worked for a nonprofit education institution for nearly 5 years, as well as having served on a number of boards and working with nonprofits, I knew that there's a high level of burnout. The initiative burnout or initiative fatigue would be inevitable at some point, and also that a lot of nonprofits spend time reinventing wheels that other nonprofits have already built. And I just
Mhm.
saw the emergence of so many organizations dedicated to the diverse community in wine and creating access or offering education or working toward career development and elevation that I figured I I don't know, I thought maybe if we got everyone in one room, we could talk about all these initiatives and find ways to collaborate where most nonprofits are encouraged to compete, and we could idea share instead of gatekeep, and we could bring
Mhm.
together people that could both celebrate and commiserate, right? All in under one umbrella. And so the
Right.
forum started as a biannual gathering, meaning
Right.
everybody log on Zoom and talk about your organization, and we'll facilitate through some conversation, work toward these like tough questions. And the room was filled with leaders of some of the organizations we all know very well now. Over the
Mhm.
past 3 years, we have worked with about 20 to 22 organizations in the United States and in Canada that are dedicated to equity work in wine in some way, whether they provide mentorship
Mhm.
programs or scholarships, annual events, education, job placements, etc. And those folks over the past 3 years have come together every August and February to talk about their initiatives. Some of the things that have come from those biannual kind of closed door forums are collaborations among the organizations, shared resources, conversations around things that are needed and things that could be given. So it's this really supportive space that we've tried to create as a place that people who are doing really hard and really, really difficult. I know I said hard, but it's like it's hard and difficult work, to come together and to just have a space where they can talk honestly and openly. And from the forum was born a couple of the other things that we do as overall the Diversity and Wine Leadership Forum. Now I run the forum in partnership with Dr. Akila Kadei, who's the founder of Change Kadei here in Oakland. And
Hmm.
what we've done is add a workshop series that's open to anyone in the wine industry. It's called Do the Work, and people attend a 3-part workshop series. They're 90 minutes, either once a month or once a week for 3 weeks, depending on what time of year we offer the program. And the goal there is to just help equip people with foundational DEI training. We're tackling power and privilege, we're tackling becoming an accomplice, the anti racism journey.
Hmm.
Um, and we're painting in basically examples from the wine industry, which is a very gray area business, right?
Yeah.
And needs a little bit of nuance when we're teaching these things. And so we've had over 200 global wine professionals attend the series since we launched it in early 22, I want to say.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it's that means so much. But I think the important thing is that this resource is something that the organizations that are part of the forum can rely on as well. They can send sponsors to attend. They can send their board members to have basic training. Some of the mentors that
Hmm.
work with the organizations go through this process. So it's a tool for our organizations as well. Um, and then the
Right.
last piece of the forum is around resource sharing. So every time we have a forum, it's very evident that there's resources that are needed. Maybe a sample code of conduct or a sample memorandum of understanding or how to build a
Yeah.
board, things that these organizations need but don't have time to create themselves. And they
Right.
also need it for the sustainability of their work. So we try to act as a central resource for the organizations, and then anyone who wants to see this long extensive list of orgs dedicated to equity work in the wine industry can use the website as a tool for that too, to get in touch with those orgs, to donate, to volunteer, etc. It's a little
Yeah.
ecosystem. And it's very exciting. It's a tough time right now, for folks in DEI work, and it's a
Hmm.
place that we can all come together and keep pushing forward.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And this workshop series, I know. So as we're recording this, it's August. This episode will air in September of 2023, and there is a series coming up in
Mhm.
October. From what I understand, it's $150 per person. It's a 3-part series. Each one is 90 minutes. And you did say it's open to anyone in the wine industry. So basically, that includes me. So if I wanted to be part of that, I could sign up for that without any issues.
Yep.
And
Yeah, the more the
okay,
better.
I love it. We are going to put that into the show notes, of course, because, it's important stuff. And I feel like what you were saying, it's so important to, especially people like me who are, yes, as a woman, I face some, you know
Mhm.
backlash about being a
Mhm.
woman, but I still have the privilege of being a white
Mhm.
woman. And so it's so important for people like me to recognize our power and our privilege, and recognize our potential to become accomplices, and then also to learn how to become accomplices, and to not just not be racist, but to be anti-racist.
Yeah.
So I love that. And so yeah, I definitely want to sign up for
I'll
that.
see
I
you in
will have
October
a
then.
Yeah, sounds great. All right. So that I'm going to be cutting that out, as we can see right now, because um, we are kind of already hitting the end here, which is always, to me, that's always so weird, because like I'm in the middle of this conversation. I feel like we've been talking for 10 minutes and it's been half an hour.
Yeah, you have a hard job, that's for sure.
I know it's really hard. So I do want to shift a little bit away from that work, and a little bit more into the actual wine industry, or the wine work. Let's talk about wine regions, and then of course, as part of that, about field blends. Can you talk about field blends to us a little bit? What is it? Who's it for? And what's planned next?
Yeah. Field blends. Ugh. It's helping me keep my love of wine alive, honestly. These regions that we're
Mhm.
visiting with field ones are absolute darlings of domestic production, and everybody should know about them and visit them. So I'll back up just to say that in 2022, we launched Field Blends with our inaugural trip to Walla Walla, Washington. And the
Mhm.
purpose of Field Blends was to kind of just challenge the status quo of wine tourism and wine travel education, to use wine as a vessel to explore a little more about the land and labor and agriculture surrounding a wine region, and to
Mhm.
understand who is involved in pushing regions forward and what are the geologic or demographic implications of spending your time there. And I had always wanted to have an awards part of Field Blends. I wanted access to be immediately available for people to attend. I think immersion trips are very closed door, gate kept experiences in our wine industry. Often folks are going to the same pool over and over again. And I just wanted to
Mhm.
create something that would like blow that model up, honestly. And so
Sure.
we launched with 3 trip awards available for folks in the diverse community, intersectionally diverse, whether that's BIPOC or disabled or LGBTQIA plus. These are folks that we want to uplift through these
Mhm.
experiences. And so
Yeah.
people could apply. And for Walla Walla, we launched with 3. We just got back from our trip to the Finger Lakes region in June of 2023, where we had 6 Trip Award recipients, which is hopefully we'll be on track to continue just to double every year the number of folks that go. At the same time as we're prioritizing access to industry folks, especially those emerging or looking for career transition, we are
Uh-huh.
also inviting wine lovers to come, conscious consumers,
Yeah.
people who want to experience top tier access to individuals that are changing the game in certain regions, to properties,
Right.
and to a kind of exclusive or one of a kind experiences. And that has worked really well. I think a lot of people would say, "What do you mean we're mixing consumers and industry?" And it's like, yeah, everybody needs to be humbled sometimes. And everybody needs
Yeah.
to learn how to have a real life conversation, you know? And
Yes.
that has been so much of the community building aspect of Field Blends. And I mean, we spend 4 days, sometimes 5 days, depends on the region, in the region, exploring all these different things, telling stories from multiple narratives, including perspectives we may not even agree with, right, in the program, to give people things to think about. Um,
Yeah.
this coming year in 2024, we only just announced it, but we will be traveling to Michigan. So we will be in and around Traverse City, Michigan, wine country, celebrating the immensely diverse state, as well as some of the wineries that are just like paving the way for world class winemaking in Michigan.
Oh my gosh. See, and I think that's also such a great thing to be traveling into places that people don't necessarily think about first when it comes to wine regions. Anybody that you ask generally when they're saying in the United States, where do you go to drink wine? Well, the first thing is going to be California.
Mhm.
Or the first answer is like, oh yeah, California. We're starting to really kind of see that growth in Oregon. So the second answer is probably going to be Oregon. I I would be surprised if I heard anybody say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to go to Michigan."
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So,
we're trying to change that. I think also helping people
yeah.
understand that the wine tasting experience can be different from what we all already know, which is, vitis vinifera and cheese, or vitis vinifera and chocolate, or just more vitis vinifera. And like maybe we could also, explore co-ferments with apples, or we could explore, of course, hybrid winemaking. We could explore other, like in Michigan, cherry wine. And
Mhm.
so, like, just
Mhm.
again, asking, what have we not seen? What have we not been taught? How can we expand, especially for our Trip Award recipients, on how they view the potential of their career in the wine industry after they leave Field Blends, and how they go out and act as an ambassador of the region that they get to visit. I
Sure.
I just don't see. I think that that is just so important, and
Yeah.
everyone hopefully can take something away from thinking about things that way. The other thing that's really special about field blends, although shouldn't really be all that unique, is that we use 100% local supply chain. So, we're supporting, of course, a family owned lodging partner. We
Okay.
are working with a film crew from the region. We are, engaging local chefs, regional organizations. Uh, Honestly, like, you name it, we probably thought about it, if not included it in a program. And so
Mhm.
it's just a really special, unique experience. And I think I just still get my text messages, from my Field Blends family year round. And it just, we become this
Yeah.
community. It's really awesome.
Yeah. Do you feel that this is also something that could make wine in general uh more interesting to a younger crowd of people because of your, approach of diversity and equity in everything that you do? I feel like, I just had this conversation with Maria
Mm.
Ponzi, and she was talking about we need the young people, we need young leaders. And, a lot of, the wine industry is perceived as pretty, stuffy, and, there's the old white man is kind of like that picture. And so it's naturally already uninteresting to younger people. And I feel like field blends and the work that you do could, probably be used to kind of draw in this younger crowd and really kind of change the wine industry as we know
I
it.
hope. I hope that's the plan.
Right?
I I mean, we just did an age range report on, like, our applicants and attendees, and we have from age 22 to 66.
No
So,
way.
I think when we think about, oh, we need younger consumers, that drives me nuts, actually, because it's young is assuming so many other things about the people, right? But we also need diverse people. We need
Sure.
moms. We need the
Yeah.
disabled community to engage with wine. We need. And it's like, well, what do they need? Have you stopped to ask, what do they need? Because
Ooh.
maybe if we had the
Yeah.
answer to that question, then we wouldn't need them
Yeah.
so bad. We would have them. So, like, field blends is, I consider, a solve for some of these things, right? It's not impossible for a
Right.
region or a group of leaders to replicate something that we've done. I'm not a closed book. You can download the itineraries for both trips on the website right now. I want people to
Mhm.
support these regions. I want people to feel welcome in them. I want them to see themselves in these regions. But if we keep
Yeah.
saying we need something without asking what the person we need needs from us, then we might as well not bother saying the statement at all.
All right, I'm gonna pick this microphone up just so I can drop it.
I obviously feel passionate about it.
Yeah, no, and like I said, at the very beginning, yes, make me uncomfortable because in I'm still like, as I'm speaking with Maria and everything, and we need. That's totally the mindset that I'm in. And to approach this from this completely different side. Now, hang on a second. Why do we talk about what we need? Let's talk about what do they need. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, wait, yes. Oh my gosh. So I love that. I love your response to that. So thank you. I really appreciate
Of
that.
course.
So, field blends, is the plan to do like one trip a year, or is it going to be more than one trip? And is it always going to be in the United States, or do you eventually think you might be going
All of the
elsewhere?
questions everyone wants answers to. I think I would love to see field blends happen more than once a year. It's
Yeah.
part of this immensely important body of work of mine, and I would love to just see it expand. It takes resourcing. It takes conversations like these. I apply for grants. I'm out there looking for sponsors. So, like, we do have to
Yeah.
resource it for it to be successful. And right now, one time a year is a good pace for us. The other reason
Yeah.
why one time a year is a good pace for us is because I pretty much act like it's a conference for 500 people. And some people might think that's a super inefficient way of doing things, but it is also a key, like, success measure, right, of how we deliver field blends. In the Finger Lakes, we worked with over 60 people for a program that welcomed 14 people to the region. In Walla
Hmm.
Walla, 40 people. So it's a
Hmm.
lot of moving pieces to deliver something of this level. But I can tell
Yeah.
you that the regions themselves, the folks who participate as hosts, as speakers, all feel like they walk away having learned something too. Maybe they go and make a change in
Yeah.
their business. People have gone and updated their websites. They've changed how they speak to people when they walk in the door. They've changed overall narratives. Like the work or the experience isn't just for those who come. It's for those who
Yeah.
participate in it as well. And so, anyway, to answer your question, that's why it's like one time a year. That's a lot in one year. We're not just planning a trip, right? We're trying to influence change, and that takes longer
Yeah.
than hosting a 5-day long trip.
Oh, for sure.
Um,
Yeah.
International is, of course, of interest. However, I am very, I continue to be keen about supporting our domestic e- economy, frankly.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think that we need to be better about that as consumers overall. And so
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. Sure.
proud to like explore these regions within the US, while also considering where there might be opportunities abroad too.
Right on. Well, lovely, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.
I am I am very interested in going to Michigan, honestly, and I've never been to Michigan myself, so this would certainly be one of those opportunities where you said there's people from 22 years old to 60 something, and to see all of them connecting like that, I love that idea. That sounds absolutely amazing to me.
I I would welcome you. You are more than welcome to come. And I say this every year, largely, my community partners like Fiona Mack and Maya Johnson Dunn and Simon Mitchelson, who's my new community partner for Michigan, are responsible for this. But every year I say, this is going to be the best one yet. And
Right.
they're all so different. They're all incredible. And it takes a village, and
Yeah.
it's just so fun to share with people. So hopefully you do get to come.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that will be so amazing. I mean, I have a little bit of time to plan it, so that would be
Yeah.
great.
The tickets are live on the website right now.
Okay. Oh, good to know. Yes. So we are, of course, going to have this in the show notes as well. Just as we're going to have all of Miriam's links, we're going to have her website. We're going to have those articles that she's featured in. We're going to have field blends in there. So it'll be really easy for you to just scroll down and click on any of the links that are of interest to you. Maybe I'll even see you in one of those workshops. Hint,
Sounds
hint.
great.
I'm going to be there for it for sure. Mariam, thank you so much for taking the time to be here and to chat with me so openly and candidly. I really always appreciate that, and I will let you know when it comes out.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for inviting me, Uta, and for supporting our work and for letting me know that when I got on stage a year ago, you were excited by the outcome. I appreciate that so much and keep doing the amazing work that you're doing. Thank you for supporting
Thank you
women.
so much. I really appreciate
Yeah.
that. Thank you. Well, dear listeners, that was it. Once again, thank you so much for being here. Check the show notes as always. And with all that, all I have left to say, of course, is Prost.